Video 2, picking up on number 7 on the practice final. Let's distribute r times r squared, r times 4, that becomes 4r, positive 4r that is. And then let's distribute the minus 7 times r, minus 7r, minus 7 times 4, that's minus 28. The only other thing you could do is combine the 4r with the minus 7r, giving you your final answer over here, r squared minus 3r minus 28. Done. Number 8, let's distribute. Let's start with the first term, negative 3t. Negative 3t times negative 4t, we're going to get a positive 12t squared. Then negative 3t times negative 3v, well, a negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 9, and t times v is exactly that, tv. Now let's distribute the minus 4v times minus 4t. Well, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, and v times t is vt. We might as well put it in alphabetical order and put tv again. And then negative 4v times negative 3v, that's going to be a positive 12. V times v is v squared. The only other thing you could do is combine the middle terms because they're both TVs. If you have 9 TVs and 16 TVs, you watch too much TV. That's a total of, 25 TV. Whoa, what's going on here? Hold on. So, let's write our final answer for number 8 right here. There's the answer. 12t squared plus 25tv plus 12v squared. Moving on. Write an equation of the line and slope intercept form that passes through the point with the given slope. They give you a point, they give you a slope. The easiest thing would be to write it in point slope form, but they want it in slope intercept form. So just to review, that's your point slope form right there. Now let me go over here to the side and write the slope intercept form right next to it. So right here is the slope intercept form right next to it. That's slope intercept right there. So the easiest one to actually write this in, since they give you a point and they give you a slope, point slope form would be the best equation to come up with, the quickest. However, they say write an equation in slope intercept form, so you could use this one and then get rid of the parentheses by distributing and moving the y minus 1 over to change it to this. That's what I actually recommend, right? Or another option is to plug in your x value of negative 5 right here, plug in your y value of 5 right here, plug in your m value of 5 right here. So you have a bunch of numbers except for b. So you solve for b and you'll have an answer for b, and then you could keep that answer for b and take the 5 and plug it in there, and you'll have your slope intercept form equation. It's up to you. Should I do both ways or should I only do one? Which way do you guys prefer? So let me start with point slope, okay? So we have a coordinate here. This is x value, y value. You call it x1, y1, okay? And that means that your x1 value goes right in there and your y1 value goes right in there. Now, obviously, your m is 5. That goes right there. So let me rewrite this point slope form equation, but plugging in my point and plugging in my slope. So here's my point slope. Let me plug in my y1 value. My y1 value is what? 5. That's right, 5. What's my m value? Thank you, 5. And what's my x1 value? Negative 5. Okay, so you plug it in there exactly the way I did. Then you're going to have to, obviously, this equation does not look like slope intercept form, and they want it in slope intercept form. So obviously you need to get rid of the minus signs, change them to plus, because minus is a plus plus. You're going to have to get rid of the parentheses by distributing. You have to move this 5 over by adding 5. So you could do all that math, get the y by itself, and it'll be in slope intercept form. Let's actually do that. So I'm going to distribute 5 times x, that's 5x. 5 times, that's really a positive 5, that's plus 25. So I really have y minus 5 equals 5x plus 25. So if I wanted to get rid of this minus 5, I would have to add 5 to both sides. So that would cancel out. And if I add 5 over here, I'd get 30. So what would I have left? I would have left y equals 5x plus 30. All right, so that's my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals 5x plus 30. That's the way to do it with point-slope form and then manipulating your equation to make it look like slope-intercept form. Now, you didn't have to do that. You could have changed it to this just by using this. Y equals mx plus b. You did not have to use the point-slope form. I like using the point-slope form. It's very easy. You just plug in your x1, plug in your y1, plug in your 5, and then distribute and move things around, and you have it in slope-intercept form. Now, let's say you totally forgot point-slope form. Let's say you only remember y equals mx plus b. This is a second way of doing this problem. So I'm going to take my x1 and my y1. This is a coordinate x1 and y1. And I'm going to take my x1 value and plug it into x. And I'm going to take my y1 value and plug it into y. Now, the reason is, to write this in slope-intercept form, obviously, I need an m value, which I already know is 5. They gave that to us. But I also need a b value, and I don't know the b value. I need both to be able to write it. So what I could do is take what they give me to find out what I don't know. So once again, my y value in the coordinate is 5. So let me put a 5 right there for y. Equals the m value. They gave us the m value of 5. And it says times x, and then plus b at the very end. Okay? So what is my x value of my coordinate? That's negative 5, right? Negative 5 right there on the x1. So let's plug in a negative 5 right here. So we're going to have 5 equals negative 25 plus b. And of course, we are going to add 25 to both sides, which will thus give us the b value of 30. So now we really do know that the b value is 30. I hope everybody's keeping up with me here. So the b value is 30, the m value they gave us. Once you know m and b, now you could go y equals m, because that's your m value, x plus b. B is 30. So it's really up to you. I did twice the work because I did both methods. I used the point slope form and then manipulated it, or you could just stick with slope intercept and plug in what you know to find out what you don't know. Either way, you get the same answer, y equals 5x plus 30. Okay, same equation in slope intercept form. I hope that helps. Let's move on to number 10. One of the factors of x squared plus 14x plus 24 is, they're saying one of the factors. Okay, so they do this especially on multiple choice questions, because what if they told you just to factor it? Okay, well, how do you factor this, guys? You put parenthesis, 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 x. What times what is 24 that if you add together is positive 14? Anybody? 12 times 2. So if we put a plus 12 in here and a plus 2 right there, that is your factored form. Okay? So you're probably thinking, then why the heck do they say write one of the factors? Okay? So what if I actually had a bunch of A, B, and C multiple choice like on the final? Technically, you don't even need to know how to factor, because you could go to your A, option A, and you could say x times 2, 12 times x, 12 times 2, and see if it gives it to you, right? So the reason why they say just give one of the factors is because on your multiple choice, they're only going to give you one of them, right? So they're either going to give you x plus 2, that way you can't work backwards. Does that make sense? So like, let's say they said, this question says one of the factors. Let me show you how they're going to give it to you. Let's say option A is x minus 2. Option B is x minus 12. Option C is x plus 2. And option D is x minus 4. So you look at those answers, there's no way to work backwards from these answers back to this quadratic trinomial. So they're not going to give it to you completely factored. They're going to say which one of these is a factor. So obviously this one is x plus 2. That's in there. So the correct answer is C. You guys understand how they're going to ask you on the final? Okay, cool. So let me erase this right here if possible. No, I can't. Well, Número 11, factor completely. It's easy to factor because the A value is 1. So just set up the parentheses. parenthesis, G right there, because that gives us a G squared. Let's think, what times what is negative 26? That if you combine together is negative 11. Excellent. Negative 13, positive 2. And ladies and gentlemen, we are done. That's it. That's all you could do on that one. You see, it's easy. Let's move on to simplifying expressions, square roots, fun stuff. I hope we remember when we did square roots, you always want to have a perfect square number, right? You always want to have a perfect square number, right? So let me just do a little quick review right here, right next to number 12. Like the square root of 20, that's not a perfect square number. The square root of 16, that's easy. What's the answer to that? That's 4. Okay, so that one's too easy. But the square root of 20, that's not a perfect square number, so you want to rewrite it with multiplication to get a perfect square number. So we want to rewrite it as 4 times 5, not 2 times 10, because 2 is not a perfect square, 10 is not a perfect square. And so we're rewriting the 20 as 4 times 5, and there's a rule in math that says if you're multiplying inside a square root, you could actually split the root to each of the terms that you're multiplying. Or you could even go backwards, right? But the square root of 4 is 2, no more square root. And the square root of 5 stays the square root of 5. And that's how we simplify. But what I want to mention here, especially on number 12, that you could split them. You have 4 times 5. You could split it. Or you could use that rule backwards. And if you're multiplying 2 square roots, you could actually put them together underneath 1 square root, okay? Because that's exactly what we're going to do right here on number 12. Okay, so we have the number 2 times the square root of 5 times the square root of 10. So let's not mess with the number 2. We're just going to leave it right there. 2 times, but this square root of 5 and this square root of 10, I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to get 5 times 10, which is 50. Are you with me? Okay, so 5 times 10 is 50. We have the square root of 50 now. So why does that benefit me? Because over here, I couldn't break down 5 to get a perfect square number. Over here, I couldn't even break down 10 to get a perfect square number. But 50, now I could break that down to get a perfect square number. So I still have the 2 times, but the 50, I'm going to rewrite it as 25 times 2 and split the root, because 25 times 2 is 50. So now I'm going to actually do the square root of 25. What do I get? 5. So I really have 2 times 5, no more square root, times the square root of 2. So my final answer is going to be 2 times 5 is 10. Nice, beautiful number 10. Square root of 2 right behind it. 10 square root of 2 is your final answer for number 12. Shugare? Let's do the same for 13 and 14 if we have time. So 48. Well, I know that 4 times 12 is 48. So I could rewrite that. But instead of going with the first perfect square number, let's think of a couple of more perfect square numbers. So 4 times 12 is 48, but how about 9? 9 times something give you 48? Nah. How about 16? Is 16 times something give you 48? Yeah. 16 times 3 gives you 48. So when you split that, you're going to have a nice, beautiful number 4 with the square root of 3, and that's really 4 times the square root of 3. And over here we have times, right? That times comes down, times 3 times the square root of 5. So we really have 4 square root of 3 times 3 square root of 5. We could actually rearrange the multiplication and put 4 times 3 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 5. Why would I do that? Because I could actually do 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. That's a nice, beautiful number 12. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 5, you could actually put those together and get the square root of 15. Are you with me? That's your final answer for that one. So, we did run out of time on this one. I'm going to pick up the next video. Let's just do it. Quick style. Check it out. 14 times 2. So we're putting them together. 2 times 14 is 28. So we get 2 times the square root of 28. The square root of 28, we could rewrite that. We could break it down. The square root of 28 becomes, and of course we're going to split it. And of course we're going to get 2 square root of 7. But keep in mind that that's just the value of the square root of 28, which is here. So I really have the 2 that's out in front times 2 square root of 7. Final answer is 4 square root of 7.